More than 10,000 children in Minnesota are in foster care, and about 90% of those kids have a good chance to be reunited with their biological families. But the remaining 1,000 kids are wards of the state waiting to be adopted. A nonprofit run by a Robbinsdale woman plays an important role in helping those kids find adoptive families.
Here she is. I love this girl.
In this age of digital technology,
This is Abby. I think she's 17 now.
Casey Stanley of Robbinsdale has become somewhat of an internet influencer.
She got her nails done the day we did her shoot.
Yet she's not using the web to promote a product. Instead, she's trying to sell people on the idea of adopting foster children.
There is this huge line of families to adopt babies. If you want a baby, you're waiting 5 to 7 years. You're paying $20,000 to $40,000. This long line of people waiting for babies. And then there's this long line of kids with no families.
Stanley wants people to realize that those older kids need families too.
My friends would describe me as nice, funny, and cool.
So she started a nonprofit organization called the Real Hope Project in 2016.
Essentially what we do is we make videos of kids in foster care in Minnesota who are waiting to be adopted.
Since 2016, the Real Hope Project has made 89 videos that showcase who these children are, their likes and dislikes, and their personalities.
One of the things that's really hard about adopting is when you start learning about a kid, usually the first thing you learn is like all the hard things, all the negative behaviors that they might have or any trauma they've been through. And so it's really helpful to have something that reminds you like, oh yeah, she's still a kid, you know, and she's like a goofball and she's funny.
Many of the kids they feature are teenagers.
I mean, every kid needs a family, regardless of how old they are. You know, family is forever and kids need family for their whole lives.
Stanley and her team work with different counties, social workers, and adoption agencies to put together these 2-minute videos.
So our goal is to make a video for every kid in Minnesota who's waiting to be adopted. There's about 1,000 kids in our state.
It's a lofty goal, but in the 3 years since the company was started, they've matched about 45 kids with families who are moving toward adoption.
They deserve families, and so when you get to have that kind of impact and stick with a kid through their whole life, you get to see some pretty cool things happen.
And Stanley and her husband are close to becoming adoptive parents themselves. They met a child on a video shoot back in September and decided to begin the adoption process. 4 students at Wayzata High School are getting a big boost to their college education. It's all thanks to a former teacher who wouldn't have been able to go to college without the scholarship she got decades ago.
The amount of that money in 1964, $300. That paid for a full year at the University of Minnesota, and each quarter there was $10 left over to put towards books. So I got to thinking, you know, someday I'd really like to pay that back.
And she did. The 4 students got $5,000 each in Steyer's need-based scholarship. One recipient says this scholarship put her over the top. Her freshman year is paid for.
It was amazing. When I got there that evening to the senior award ceremony and opened up the pamphlet and saw my name underneath the Pay It Forward scholarship, I was elated, and I just kept thinking about how excited my family was going to be to see it and how far it was going to take me in furthering my education.
Vanessa says she hopes someday to pay it forward again so someone else can go to school. This week, the Brooklyn Park City Council moved forward on a plan to revamp the historic Eidem farm. Some of the money from the $26 million park bond referendum approved last fall will go toward a plan to better communicate the history of the farm. The city hired a heritage group to develop a plan for the site that includes more signs, more exhibits, and a new building. The group will also conduct more research into the area's sheep and potato farming history. The city of Osseo has been taking a closer look at recreation opportunities for teenagers.
We've got a very long established senior program, and then we tried the youth program, and that's coming in, and then the teens, there's just nothing, and I think that we should look at that.
The council passed a measure to allow Osseo residents between the ages of 9 and 17 to apply for a 50% rebate on any summer program offered through an Osseo business. The rebate is good for up to $150. The teen would need to fill out an application for reimbursement at City Hall. The program begins this summer. Having a student accepted into any of the U.S. military academies is an honor, but Wayzata High School is sending 2 students to the Coast Guard Academy.
So it's very unique. So it's rare to have even more than 1 student from a state, especially some of the middle states. And in this case, to have 2 students from the same school is exceptional. Certificate.
Emma Abushan and Jin Johnson accepted their invitations to become cadets, and in a few weeks will be shipping off for the academy in New London, Connecticut.
I originally was interested in it because they have a great sailing team and I really wanted to sail. Also, I wanted to study government, which can be difficult to study and find a career in it with other schools. So through the Coast Guard, I'll have a job after and I get to study what I want and sail for an amazing team.
The mission of the Coast Guard is, I think, what fits me best, as well as the post-graduation opportunities as well, because I love both the ocean as well as flying, and so either one of those I'd be very happy in doing.
Coast Guard scholarships are valued at $400,000. A sure sign that summer's finally here. The Maple Grove Farmers Market is open for business.
Every Thursday until October 24th, you can find us here with locally raised fruits, vegetables, meats, plants, lots of really unique, delicious specialty goods.
There'll be lots more fruits and veggies down the road. For now, you can find flowers, locally made food, and even honey. We leave you with more sights and sounds from opening day.
The Hopkins baseball team is playing well this season. They had a very busy week of games. The Royals were on the road at Minnetonka early in the week. Hopkins starting pitcher Miles Halligan is sharp from the start. He strikes out the side in the first. In the top of the second, Will Stein drives a deep fly ball for the Royals, and he hustles to second for a stand-up double. Stein goes to third on a sacrifice and then scores on a wild pitch for a 4-0 Royals lead. In the bottom of the second, Halligan gets 3 more strikeouts, including this inning-ending K. Then in the fourth, with a runner at third, Halligan freezes the Tonka hitter, striking out the side again. And he does the same in the fifth, ending the frame with a nasty breaking ball. He works 5 1/3 and strikes out 13. Sam Sickink on the hill in the seventh, and he gets a game-ending strikeout as the Royals beat Minnetonka 4-1. Maple Grove's baseball team lost some close games earlier this season. They've been winning on a more consistent basis later in the year. The Crimson hosted Spring Lake Park. The bottom of the second, Daniel Markson's ground ball, a big hop off the edge of the grass. It's into left to score. Ethan Dexheimer and the Crimson get the first run of the game. Then Kyle Kukkonen strokes a base hit up the middle to score Joe Schmidt, and it's 2-0 Maple Grove. Nate Ross rips a ground ball down the line here. It's another run-scoring hit. Jeremy Click hustles in for a 3-0 Crimson lead. In the top of the third, Tyler Weens gets the inning-ending strikeout with a Panthers runner at second. The bottom of the fourth, Dylan Peck slices a bloop hit into shallow left to score Kukkonen. Peck goes to second for a double, and it's 5-0 Crimson. And they get a couple more runs and end up winning it 7-1. It's been a very good season for the Champlin Park girls lacrosse team. The Rebels faced a District 11 rival this week as they played host to Coon Rapids. Champlin Park's Brooke Freeman surveys the defense and works her way to the front of the net to score, and the Rebels are up 1-0. Cameron Mayer starts from the free position and bounces a shot home to make it 3-0 Champlin Park, and they are just getting rolling. Josie Johnson turns on the speed and will dodge some defenders to tuck another shot home. This one gives the Rebels a 6-0 lead. After the Cardinals pull within 6-2, Ashley Larson finds Freeman with a great pass, and Freeman buries it. Champlin Park's lead grows to 9-2 at halftime. They win 16-6 and also edged Andover on Wednesday. The Wayzata girls lacrosse team was shooting for its first win in the month of May when they played at Hopkins Thursday night. The Trojans' Ashton Utsi draws the defenders and sets up Ava Goodnature for the goal, and it's 3-0 Wayzata. Later in the first half, Goodnature on the run up the right side races past the defense to score. She nets 3 in the first half, and Wayzata leads 6-2. In the second half, some great passing coming up. Anna Laugen to Ashton Utsi to Haley Olson. And then over to Kimball Utsi for the goal. Wayzata rolls to a 15-5 win. The Hopkins and Wayzata boys teams also meeting in the late game of the doubleheader, and it's all Wayzata. Jake Schneider receives the pass, and he scores from long distance to get the scoring started for the Trojans. Second quarter, and the Hopkins gamble for a steal will not pay off. And Thomas Seifert rips the shot in to make it 8-0 in favor of the Trojans. And Cade Chiraka sets up Jack Peterson for another goal. Wayzata leads 9-0 at halftime, and they win it 14-1. And a note from local boys basketball. A coach who helped bring a program in the northwest suburbs back to prominence is moving to the other side of the Twin Cities. Matthew McAllister announced via social media that he's resigned as Brooklyn Center's boys basketball coach. McAllister has accepted the head coaching job at South St. Paul. He coached the Centaurs for 4 seasons and led them to their first state tournament berth since the 1980s in the 2017-2018 season. He and his staff also worked extensively with his players on making academic progress at Brooklyn Center.
Good staff.